Now, I know that you derive some comfort from the philosophy of the Greeks and the Epicureans in particular. And most of us probably don't know much about the Epicureans other than maybe it has something to do with good taste or something.
Yeah.
What comfort do the Epicureans have to offer in relation to death?
Yeah, well, Epicurus is really kind of misunderstood by most people who only know him through the word Epicurean as though someone who really delights in great food and wine, but that had really little to do with Epicurus. In fact, he's a fascinating character. And as I said, I was going to write a story or even thinking of a novel about him because he believed, this again is we're talking about 350 BC. He came just after Plato. But he believed that all of life's misery is really caused by our fear of death, and that the job of philosophy was to minister to human despair. So he thought of philosophy as really a kind of medicine for the soul, medicine for our inner self. And so he founded a school. He taught his students about ways that we can, arguments that we can use to defeat our anxiety about dying. And I've listed some of those in my book. I think they're still quite valid, and one of them was something that we talked about a few minutes ago, the idea that life is, that we're mortal. And therefore, we have nothing to fear in the afterlife. We have nothing to fear from the gods. They can't harm us or hurt us in any way. And another argument, I won't go through all of them, but just another powerful one that I feel offers me comfort is the fact that when death comes, you go into the same, what shall we say, we're in a state of non-being, in the same way that we were before we were born. He calls this a symmetry argument. And there are legions of answers and responses to this through the centuries. But I feel that it is still a powerful argument that, we seem to have, the Russian novelist Nabokov talked about life being a crack of light between two pools of darkness. The darkness before we were born, the darkness after we die. But the important thing is that the pools of darkness are the same, they're identical. We seem to have so much concern about the second pool, so little about the first pool.
Yes, I find that remarkable, and I think that's the argument that has given me most comfort, is realizing that I have absolutely no despair about having been dead for eternity.
That's right.
Going backwards. I don't have any anxiety about the fact that I wasn't there, for the American Revolution or other earlier events.
That's right, exactly. So we have this one little brief flash of life, then we enter that pool again, and in a sense that's an argument for saying, well, we should live that as fully as we can. And we're so lucky, to have this time of life when so many others past in darkness or in darkness yet to come or never achieve the kind of conditions that are necessary for life to flourish.
Yes. Now, earlier you were speaking about dreams, and in the book you give a number of examples of dreams as a kind of awakening experience, and maybe you might talk about the awakening experience as well. But many people discount dreams as meaningless, and I take it that's not your experience.
Oh, not at all. I use dreams a great deal in therapy, and I do have some real concerns about the future of psychotherapy because there's so much economic pressure to the therapist to do therapy in 4 sessions or try to change the way people think or use a manual and put people through certain exercises. And we lose touch with the deeper aspects of ourselves. And dreams are an entree into what one feels and what one thinks that we're often not conscious of. So yes, I use dreams quite a bit in therapy. the awakening experience, though, is a kind of experience where I gave an example of it before when I talked about having cancer, and that suddenly it awakens one to life. In my book, I described the most perhaps famous one in literature, which is the story of the Christmas Carol. Dickens started that with Scrooge being a cantankerous, mean-spirited, stingy old man. But then, by the end of the Christmas Carol, he was totally transformed. He was full of life and generous and high-spirited. And then we have to ask, well, what made that difference? And what made the difference certainly wasn't the Christmas cheer or something like that. Dickens gave him a form of existential shock therapy by having the angel of the future visit him and pull him into the future so he could see his own death and see his own tombstone. And just that scene, seeing his tombstone, even putting his fingers over his letters that were name that was etched into the granite, that was the scene when the next scene occurred. He was a transformed person. So that was a kind of awakening experience. Filling one full of life and treasuring life more fully. And also, this is very important too, recognizing that we're all facing that. Everyone is taking the same path, and that can fill us with a certain kind of, profound compassion for others. And it was his compassion, his connectedness to others that was really aroused at that point.